Have you ever noticed how some actors, they just have this distinct energy? Like, you know who it is instantly, even if the role is totally different from the last thing you saw them in. It's not just the face. It's this unpredictable spark. That kind of, je ne sais quoi. They're like chameleons, always adapting, but always them. Well, today we're taking a deep dive into one of those talents, the fascinating career, the vibrant life of Parker Christian Posey. And yeah, right from the start, she got that famous nickname, Queen of the Indies. It's huge, right? Defined her public image. But as we're going to find out, it was kind of complicated too. Sometimes it held her back. So yeah, let's really unpack this story. Our mission today basically is to explore how Parker Posey carved out this amazing niche in independent film, right? But then how she navigated moving into bigger studio movies and TV, and crucially, how she kept that unique, often kind of eccentric acting style going through it all. She's become, one of the most beloved character actors out there, instantly recognizable. We'll be digging into a whole overview of her life, her career, looking for those key moments, those surprising facts, the bold choices, really, that shaped her path.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating, I think, is how those early experiences, the choices she made back then, they really set the stage for everything else. It wasn't just about talent, though obviously she has tons of that. It was these specific, sometimes pretty unconventional choices she made that set her apart. And that's what let her kind of bridge these different worlds in Hollywood, The indie scene, the big studios, it's almost like a roadmap for creating a unique identity in a field that often wants you to fit in.
Totally. So get ready for some aha moments, probably, about an actress you've definitely seen. You probably admired her work. But her story, well, it runs a lot deeper. It's much richer than you might realize. Let's really dig into Parker Posey. Okay, so our journey starts in Baltimore, Maryland. That's where Parker Christian Posey was born, November 8th, 1968. And her name, Parker Christian Posey, it's got a bit of flair, doesn't it? She was actually named after Susie Parker, the famous fashion model. Maybe a little hint of a future in the public eye. And fun fact, she has a twin brother, Christopher. Her childhood, though, was mostly spent down south. After Baltimore, the family moved to Monroe, Louisiana. They were there for 11 years, a big chunk of her childhood. Then they moved again to Laurel, Mississippi. Her parents, Linda and Chris. Interesting jobs. Her mom, Linda, was a chef and later taught culinary arts for Viking Range Corporation. Pretty cool. And her dad, Chris, owned a car dealership. She was raised Catholic too, just another piece of the puzzle of her background. But here's something that really jumps out, gives you a real window into those early years. Parker Posey herself, she once said she was born into turbulence. And she called her family fabulous Southern characters. It's quite a description, right? It paints a picture of a really lively household, maybe a bit theatrical.
Oh, absolutely. And that immediately makes you wonder, doesn't it? How much does that kind of environment, a family full of characters, how much does that push someone towards becoming a character actor? Her own quote is so telling. I'm a character actor because I come from a family of characters. It's like right there. It suggests her knack for embodying these unique, quirky, memorable people isn't just training. It's something deeper, rooted in how she grew up, what she saw, who she interacted with. Imagine being a kid just soaking up all these dynamic personalities all the time. It could have really sharpened her observation skills, made her comfortable with eccentricity, maybe even gave her that amazing comedic timing super early on, a real foundation for her performances.
That's a really powerful link, yeah. It makes you think about how our personal history really can foreshadow what we end up doing, sometimes in ways we don't see till later. And speaking of callings, it seems like performing was in her blood early on. As a kid, she loved being in the spotlight, performing. She even went to Strong River Camp and Farm in Panola, Mississippi. Sounds kind of perfect for fostering creativity. She also trained seriously in ballet. Travels for summer programs at the University of North Carolina School of the Arts, which is a big deal. That kind of intense training in something so demanding, especially young, it says a lot about her drive, her commitment, her work ethic. Things you definitely need in acting too. Okay, now this next part, this is a real what-if moment, a major turning point. When she was just 12, she auditioned for the super competitive ballet department there. And she didn't get in. She wasn't accepted. Huge moment of redirection, right? But her dad, sounds like he had some good insight, saw her talent, maybe sensed another path for her. He encouraged her to try acting instead. And obviously, that advice, maybe coming after what felt like a setback, it just completely changed her life's direction. steered her away from ballet straight towards the stage and screen. It's like rejection opening the door to destiny, you know?
Exactly. That single moment, that rejection, followed by her dad's advice, it absolutely set her on the path that defined her career. It really highlights how random almost career paths can be, especially in the arts. People often find their true calling through redirection, not just a straight line. But that discipline from ballet, that wasn't wasted. That rigor, the physical awareness, the attention to detail, that almost certainly transferred right into acting. Super valuable skills.
Absolutely. You can see how that foundational training would shape her as an artist, even if it wasn't acting school per se. So with that push from her dad, she pivoted to acting. Went to study drama at SUNY Purchase, State University of New York at Purchase, then a well-respected program known for churning out talent. And while she was still studying, a talent agent saw her in a play, spotted her potential. That was the big break. Signed her immediately, and suddenly she's getting auditions for indie films, off-Broadway stuff. Her entry into the professional world was like, bam, super fast, kind of dramatic. She actually dropped out of college less than 3 weeks before she was supposed to graduate. Why? Because she landed her first professional acting gig, an 8-episode role as Tess Shelby on the soap opera, As the World Turns. This was 1992. Talk about hitting the ground running from student to working actor just like that.
Yeah, and if you look at the bigger picture in the industry, it's actually not that uncommon for successful actors to get their start in daytime TV. It's like a boot camp. Seriously, you learn so much, so fast, memorizing tons of dialogue quickly, hitting marks, delivering big emotions on demand, adapting to constant script changes, tight schedules. So that jump from student to pro that fast, it really speaks volumes about her raw talent, right? And that people saw her screen presence immediately. It also kind of hints at a practical side, maybe, willing to grab a real career opportunity over finishing the degree, a gamble that definitely paid off for her.
No kidding, she did not waste any time. And once she started hitting the big screen, things really took off, especially in that whole indie film explosion happening in the 90s. Her first feature film appearances were in 93. She was Stephanie in Coneheads, Irene Kildare and Joey Breaker. Little glimpses of what she could do. But let's be honest, for most people watching back then, the big introduction, the one everyone remembers, was Richard Linklater's Dazed and Confused. Her role as Darla Marks, the senior who just loved hazing the freshmen. Unforgettable. She totally put herself on the map with that. She owned that character, commanded attention even in that huge ensemble cast. Classic. Then in 1994, she started working with director Hal Hartley, which became a really important relationship for her indie career. First in his short film Opera No. 1, then his crime comedy Amateur. She played a girl squatter. Memorable. That same year, she popped up elsewhere, too. She was a rollerblader in Nora Ephron's Mixed Nuts. She was in a thriller called Final Combination, played Athena in Sleep With Me, just building that resume. But the real breakthrough, the one that really made her an indie darling, that was 1995, Daisy Von Schurler-Mayer's Party Girl. She was just perfect as this free-spirited New York City party girl who has to get serious. The character felt like it was written for her. And the film itself, total indie spirit, made for like $150,000, shot in just 19 days. Incredible efficiency, fueled by passion. Now here's a really wild detail about Party Girl. Often gets missed, but it's huge. It wasn't just an art house hit. It was apparently the first feature film ever premiered on the internet. Can you even imagine? Streaming a movie online back then, before Netflix, before broadband was common, it was so ahead of its time, pushing boundaries when dial-up was still the norm. And Roger Ebert, the critic, he totally got her appeal. He called it a showcase leading role for Parker Posey, who obviously has the stuff and generates wacky charm, high praise. And man, was she busy then. The mid to late 90s, she was just everywhere, showing incredible versatility. 1995 alone was packed. She played Debbie in Drunks, a recovering alcoholic obsessed with Janis Joplin. Then she was in Hal Hartley's Flirt. She was the eternal love slave in Greg Araki's cult film The Doom Generation. Then, completely different, a serial killer in Frisk. Talk about range. And she was also in Noah Baumbach's first movie, Kicking and Screaming, as a college student. Just an amazing run of diverse roles.
That period is absolutely critical to understanding her, yeah. It wasn't just about getting credits. It was about tackling this incredibly diverse, often risky, sometimes experimental stuff, all within the indie world. Doing all those different characters back to back let her seriously sharpen her skills, build this reputation for being unpredictable, and develop a really fearless approach. I mean, going from vulnerable alcoholic to cold-blooded killer, that takes guts. That immersion in unconventional roles shaped her unique style, maybe even her improv skills, and definitely stopped her from getting typecast early on. Became her signature, really.
Totally. That fearlessness became her trademark. And then came another huge collaboration. Christopher Guest. She entered his unique mockumentary universe with Waiting for Guffman in 1996. Her Libby Mae Brown, the super perky Dairy Queen employee, hilarious, memorable. That was the start of something really special, a creative partnership that gave us some of her absolute best comedic work.
Oh, yeah, and that whole Christopher Guest world. It brings up this really interesting point about ensemble acting and improv, right? How does that environment foster creativity in a way that was clearly perfect for Parker Posey? Guest's films are so unique. She became part of this loose group of actors, his repertory group. They improvise a lot, working more from detailed backstories than a strict script. And what's also fascinating is how they were, everyone apparently gets the same fee, same profit share. It speaks to this really collaborative ensemble first spirit. It's not about one star. And that unconventional, trust-based setup just let her shine. Her comedic timing, her quick wit, her knack for creating these fully formed, eccentric characters totally on the fly. It was brilliant. Shows her adaptability and improv genius.
Yeah, she definitely thrived there, and her acclaim in the indie world just kept growing. 1996, she was in Linklater's Suburbia. She played the real-life gallery owner Mary Boone in Basquiat, Julian Schnabel's film. And she was Jo Malone, the kind of wonderfully apathetic sister in The Day Trippers. Janet Maslin at the New York Times called her character the apotheosis of blasé cool. Perfect description. Then, 97, Clock Watchers. Great ensemble cast: Lisa Kudrow, Toni Collette, Alana Ubach. It was called a jewel of a film, and Posey got singled out for being winning and humorous as a temp worker. And that same year, she got rave reviews for The House of Yes, playing that delusional woman in love with her brother. Intense stuff. Owen Gleiberman at Entertainment Weekly famously said, Parker Posey may never have a role that suits her as perfectly, and she won a special recognition for acting award at Sundance for it. It was obvious. She wasn't just an indie darling anymore, she was becoming an icon. And speaking of icons, it was Time magazine, also in 1997, that officially gave her that nickname. Queen of the Indies. It stuck, right? Became such a defining part of her image. Really captured that moment in independent film. So what's that like, being crowned like that by a major magazine? Sounds great, but as we've kind of hinted, that title, it turned out to be a bit complex for her career. A double-edged sword.
Exactly. It's fascinating how these labels work. Posey herself talked about this quite a bit, especially later. She said the title, while maybe flattering at first, actually became a hindrance. She mentioned in a 2012 IndieWire interview getting feedback from agents like, oh, she's too much of an indie queen for the big studio movies, so it literally blocked opportunities. But then the flip side, the paradox, was that her name, even with all the critical love, apparently couldn't always get financing for indie films over a certain budget, say over $1 million. It illustrates that classic problem of being pigeonholed. If studios see you as too indie, you don't have that mainstream bankability they want. But then, indie producers needing a bit more money, maybe in that $5 million range, often need someone with some studio pull to secure distribution. So she was caught in the middle. Her quote really nails it. It's really a challenging path because I know so much about the indie side of the business, but it's different times, and this stuff gets projected onto me. She even pointed out, like, hey, I haven't done that many indies recently, mentioning Broken English was 5 years prior. You can feel her frustration at being misunderstood and stuck in that box.
Wow. Yeah, that really clarifies how a seemingly positive label can create real, practical roadblocks. Ouch. But despite those frustrations, she didn't just sit back. She very deliberately started branching out, moving into major studio films, getting into television, right around the turn of the millennium. Her first really big studio movie credit was Nora Ephron's You've Got Mail in 1998. Remember that. She played Patricia Eden, the kind of abrasive, neurotic publisher. She totally held her own with Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. That was a smart move, a big leap from the micro-budget indies. And the movie was a huge hit, made over $250 million worldwide, put her in front of a massive new audience. And she proved she could bring that unique humor and edge to a mainstream rom-com and still stand out. Late 90s, she was also in Hal Hartley's Henry Fool, as Faye Grimm will come back to her. She did a comedy, What Rats Won't Do, played the lead in The Misadventures of Margaret. And she was in The Venice Project with Dennis Hopper and Lauren Bacall, just showing up in different kinds of productions. Moving into the 2000s, her career really became this incredible balancing act. She kept up those amazing collaborations with Christopher Guest. People love those mockumentaries. 2000, Best in Show, her Meg Swan, the super anxious yuppie with the Weimaraner. Hilarious. The film's still beloved, like 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. Her character, with the perfect hair and the dog obsession, was just comedic gold. Then A Mighty Wind in 2003. She played Sissy Knox, former juvenile delinquent turned folk singer. Had that deadpan humor, but also some real heart. And get this, she actually learned to play the mandolin for the role and sang her own parts. That's dedication. The whole cast won Best Cast from the Florida Film Critics Circle. They were amazing together. And she did one more with Guest in 2006, For Your Consideration, playing Callie Webb, an actress caught up in Oscar buzz madness. But outside the guest movies, she was really mixing it up genre-wise, showing she could do anything. 2000, she was in Scream 3, played Jennifer Jolie, the actress playing Gail Weathers in the Stab movies. She brought this great meta-comedy vibe to it. Got great reviews, even an MTV Movie Award nomination for Best Comedic Performance. And the movie made bank, $161 million globally. Next year, 2001, she played Fiona, the over-the-top villainous record exec in Josie and the Pussycats. That movie kind of bombed at first, but it totally became a cult classic later. People love its satire, and Posey's villain is a huge part of that. Then 2004, she jumped into action horror with Blade, Trinity. Played Danica Talos, a badass vampire leader, alongside Wesley Snipes, Ryan Reynolds, Jessica Biel. Made $132 million worldwide. She could definitely handle genre stuff. But probably her biggest studio role that decade, scale-wise, was Superman Returns in 2006. Directed by Bryan Singer. She played Kitty Kowalski, Lex Luthor's kind of ditzy sidekick. It was a deliberate callback to Eve Teschmacher from the original 1978 Superman. She brought this great, quirky, classic henchwoman energy to it.
And what's really fascinating there, tells you so much about her unique appeal, is that director Bryan Singer apparently said Parker Posey was the only actress he considered for Kitty Kowalski. Think about that. It just highlights her unmatched ability to embody these quirky, memorable characters, even in a giant blockbuster. It wasn't just comedy, it was that specific Parker Poseyness he wanted. Her unique persona, the one she built in indie films, was seen as this huge asset that could work in a huge franchise, bringing that charm, that ironic humor, that surprising depth. No one else could do it quite like her. It showed she could elevate even a supporting role into something special.
Wow, the only choice. That's amazing for a role that big. And yeah, Superman Returns was massive, budget over $200 million, grossed $391 million worldwide, still her highest grossing film. And she got a Saturn Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress for it, too. Well-deserved. But her versatility wasn't just film. The 2000s were big for her on stage and TV, too. Showed she could handle different mediums. She made her Broadway debut in 2001. Elaine Mays played taller than a dwarf, showing off those theater chops. She did voice work, too. Memorable characters on Futurama, Umbriol, and The Simpsons, Becky, around 2000-2001, and she guest starred on Will and Grace as Dorleen. That was a huge show. Plus, in 2002, she got a Golden Globe nomination, Best Supporting Actress for the TV movie Hell on Heels, The Battle of Mary Kay. She played the ambitious rival. That's a crazy range right there, comedy, drama, animation, Broadway. And even with all these bigger projects, she definitely didn't ditch her indie roots. She kept finding and doing acclaimed independent films all through the early 2000s. Stayed loyal to that world. 2002, she was Judy Webb, a terrified bride, and the sweetest thing. Roger Ebert wasn't wild about the movie, but he specifically called her performance invaluable. She could shine anywhere. Same year, she was fantastic as Greta in Rebecca Miller's Personal Velocity. 3 portraits about women escaping tough lives. Really powerful stuff. Got nominated for Best Female Lead at the Independent Spirit Awards for that, and was runner-up for Best Supporting Actress from the New York Film Critics Circle. Major critical love. 2003, she was in The Event, playing an assistant DA, more serious drama. 2005, Adam and Steve, she played Rhonda, an unfunny stand-up comic friend. The director, Craig Chester, compared her to Bette Davis. Praised her passion, her high standards. That's intense praise. She also did David Rabe's play Hurly Burly off-Broadway that year. Then 2006, Hal Hartley's Fay Grimm. She reprised her character from Henry Fool. And here's what's cool. Hartley was apparently so impressed by her in the first film, even in a smaller role, that he wrote the sequel specifically for her, focusing the whole story on Fay. That says a lot about her impact. In 2007, Broken English, directed by Zoe Cassavetes. She starred as Nora Wilder, single career woman in New York. Screened at Sundance, Moscow Film Festival. Got another Best Female Lead nomination at the Spirit Awards. Still totally relevant in the indie scene. So after all that incredible film and stage work, she signed on for her first regular TV series role, The Return of Jezebel James, in 2008. She was playing Sarah Tompkins, a successful children's book editor who couldn't have kids, so she asked her estranged sister to be her surrogate. Sounded promising, right? Big step into series television. But man, that show just hit some major roadblocks. Really shows how volatile TV can be. It got a 13-episode order initially, which is good, but then, because everyone was expecting a big writer's strike, they cut the order down to just 7 episodes before they even aired. And then it got canceled after only 3 episodes aired because the ratings were low. Just a really rough, disappointing start for her first regular TV gig.
Yeah, that whole situation really brings up that question about how volatile TV production is, how outside forces like a strike can just kill a project prematurely. Especially tough for an actor making that first big series commitment. It's a stark reminder, isn't it? Even with great talent involved, a good concept, TV is just unpredictable. Network decisions, audience reactions, industry politics, labor issues, all things totally outside an actor's control. Really underscores the risks involved in trying to build a steady presence in a new medium.
Definitely a tough lesson in how the business works. And the end of that decade, the late 2000s, her film work got kind of mixed reviews, some hits, some misses critically. 2008, she was in The Eye, the horror remake, played the sister of the woman who gets the eye transplant. Critics weren't kind, but it made decent money, $58 million worldwide, found its audience. 2009, Spring Breakdown, starred with Amy Poehler, Rachel Dratch. Sounds like a powerhouse comedy cast. But one critic at Sundance called it the annual Sundance what the F moment, gave it 0 stars. Ouch. Even while admitting the actresses were good. And Happy Tears that same year, playing a daughter dealing with her aging dad, David Fear at Time Out was brutal. Not even the reliable Posey can salvage this slag heap. So yeah, definitely some bumps critically as the decade closed out. Okay, moving into the 2010s. Parker Posey just kept showing incredible versatility. Strong comeback on TV, continued getting critical acclaim. Had a couple of films in 2011, Inside Out and The Love Guide, that got kind of mixed reactions. But then her next one, Price Check in 2012, an indie comedy. People loved her in it. Critics praised her gonzo enthusiasm and expert comic timing as Susan Felder's. That sounds like classic Parker Posey, right? And she did a bunch of really memorable TV guest spots around 2011, 2012, made a big impression everywhere she popped up, like on Parks and Recreation as Lindsay Carlisle Shea. Remember her? So good. The Big C, The Good Wife is Vanessa Gold, New Girl is Casey. Just showing she could fit into any show and steal scenes. But the one that really got everyone talking was her 4-episode arc on Louie in 2012, playing Liz, Louis C.K.'s love interest. Lindsay Barr at Entertainment Weekly said Posey used her arsenal of talent to bring Liz to life, making her messy but totally endearing. And Andy Greenwald of Grantland just flat out called her one of the most gifted actors alive. I mean, that's huge praise. Really shows how she could connect with people and leave a mark, even in just a few episodes. Same year, 2012, she did something totally different. Played Mary Welsh Hemingway in the HBO movie Hemingway and Gellhorn with Nicole Kidman and Clive Owen. Big historical drama. And she didn't neglect the stage either. She originated the role of Pony Jones in Will Eno's play The Realistic Joneses in 2012 at Yale Rep. Had an Excellence in Acting Award for it. Still killing it in theater. Film-wise, she did Hair-Brained in 2013, Highland Park. And now a word from our sponsor. Keeping busy in the indie world. Reunited with Nicole Kidman and Grace of Monaco in 2014. Played Madge Tivy-Falcon, Grace Kelly's Lady-in-Waiting. Unfortunately, that movie didn't get great reviews at Cannes. But she also reunited with Hal Hartley for Ned Rifle in 2014. The final film in his Henry Fool trilogy, bringing back Faye Grimm. And here's a cool modern indie film detail. Hartley actually funded it through Kickstarter. Raised almost $400,000. Parker Posey even did promotional videos to help get fans to support it. Shows how indie film funding was changing and how actors could get directly involved. Then came a really interesting chapter, working with Woody Allen. First in Irrational Man in 2015. She played Rita Richards, an unhappy professor opposite Joaquin Phoenix and Emma Stone. Really strong performance.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating about that is how much it meant to her personally. She described getting cast not just as a job, but as a profound relief. She said, and this is a direct quote, "The independent film way of working is something that was in my bones. It's like being a part of a punk band, but no one's singing punk rock anymore. Only a few bands are able to play, and Woody Allen is one of them. That's why I cried." Wow. That quote just perfectly captures her feeling about how indie film had changed, how that raw, character-driven style she loved was getting harder to find. Working with Allen felt like coming home, creatively. And critics loved her performance too, praised its desperation and amusing acerbity. She could always bring those complex layers, that sharp wit. She found Allen's set was a place where that kind of work could still happen.
You can really feel her passion for that specific way of working. And she worked with Allen again in Cafe Society in 2016. Period piece, she played this witty, engaging modeling agency owner. Another great ensemble term. And she kept doing diverse guest spots and acclaimed indies. Recurring role on Granite Flats in 2015. Played Mary Phelps Jacob on Drunk History Hilarious. Went back to Christopher Guest's World for Mascots in 2016. Played Cindy Babineau, an aging dancer in elaborate mascot costumes. Got good notices again for that. Then a quieter, acclaimed role in Kogonada's Columbus in 2017. Played Eleanor, an assistant to a scholar. Critics called her vibrant and excellent. Showed her range in more subtle character pieces too. And then in 2018, something totally different, she published a book. Her first book, You're on an Airplane. A self-mythologizing memoir. Just another side of her creativity. And it wasn't just a standard memoir. It had this really cool, quirky concept. The reader sitting next to her on a plane, and she's just telling you stories. Mixes personal anecdotes, random funny observations, life stories, even her own homemade photo collages. Sounds totally Parker Posey, right? Eccentric, personal, unique. And it got great reviews. Ella called it humor-packed, irreverent, eccentric. Esquire said, Posey is a natural storyteller. She's gathered some good ones. Successful author, too. Late 2010s, she also fully embraced streaming TV and even audio. From 2018 to 2021, she had a major role in Netflix's Lost in Space remake, played Dr. Smith, the manipulative criminal who cons her way onto the ship.
Right, and her Dr. Smith got a kind of mixed reviews, which is always interesting. It shows how people interpret iconic roles differently. Some critics, like David Griffin at IGN, felt she was maybe unsophisticated and one-dimensional, wanting maybe a more straightforward villain, but others totally loved her take. Jen Chaney at Vulture praised her understated, sly comedic touches. Beth Elderkin at Gizmodo noted her trademark levity and humor, appreciating her unique style. It really highlights how her specific, often ironic approach can land differently, especially in a big, family-friendly franchise. Some wanted classic evil, others dug her more comedic, unpredictable spin, but either way, she made an impact, got a Saturn Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress in Streaming, clearly resonated.
That's a great point about how her style sparks different reactions. Makes things interesting. And in 2019, she went further into audio, headlining an 8-episode fiction podcast called Hunted, voiced to U.S. Deputy Marshal. Showed she was up for exploring new ways to tell stories, just using her voice. Okay, so now we're into the 2020s, and Parker Posey is absolutely still going strong, delivering really powerful TV and stage work. 2022, she was chillingly good as the prosecutor Frida Black in HBO's The Staircase miniseries, based on the true crime doc. And what's amazing about that role is how deep she went in her preparation. She studied hours of video of the real Frida Black to get her mannerisms, her voice, her courtroom style down perfectly. Even talked to people who knew Black personally. Really immersed herself. She called it a homecoming, maybe tapping into those Southern roots, but also a distinct honor to play a real person. That feels significant for an actor known for creating such unique fictional characters. Shows her commitment. Same year, she guest starred on Tales of the Walking Dead, jumping into the zombie genre again. And in 2023, she was back on stage, off-Broadway, in the Siegel Woodstock, NY. Still flexing those theater muscles. Film performances are still getting raised, too. Ari Aster's totally wild synced, but Beau's Afraid in 2023. She played Elaine Bray, the main character's first love. Reunited with Joaquin Phoenix, didn't have a ton of screen time, but critics noticed. David Rooney said her performance was fabulous and fearlessly in line with Aster's nightmarish vision, making a huge impact in a tough role. And in Thelma, that premiered in 2024, she plays Gail, the daughter. A more grounded, emotional role in a really well-received film. And the recognition just keeps coming. Recent and upcoming stuff is huge. For a guest role on Mr. and Mrs. Smith on Prime Video in 2024, she got a Primetime Emmy nomination. Outstanding guest actress in a drama series. That's major props, right? Shows she can still walk into a show for just a couple of episodes and blow everyone away. It's kind of been her superpower throughout her career. And the big news. 2025, she's joining the main cast of The White Lotus Season 3. Playing Victoria Ratliff, described as a wealthy matriarch. That show is huge, and putting her in that ensemble sounds amazing. And get this, she spent 6 months filming in Thailand for it. Started back in February 2024. The buzz is already building. People are praising her performance, especially her Southern accent. Full circle back to those roots, right? She also has a movie called The Parenting coming in 2025. Playing an eccentric neighbor sounds perfect. And another film, Wild Horse 9, is in post-production. Plus, you might have seen her in those Hyundai Palisade commercials recently. She's everywhere, still a major force. And beyond all the roles, her personal life sounds just as interesting and varied. She dated actor Stuart Townsend back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Dated musician Ryan Adams from 2003 to 2005. She even sang backup on some of his records. Another creative outlet. And visual artist Scott Lenhart in the late 2000s, early 2010s. Connecting with other creative people seems like a theme. Her hobbies are cool too. Pottery, sewing, she does Ashtanga yoga, follows Ayurvedic medicine, discovered that filming The Eye back in '08. Lived in Greenwich Village, the East Village in New York, really soaking up that vibrant, artistic city life. Paints a picture of someone really engaged with the world outside acting.
Absolutely. And if you connect all that back to her work, those diverse interests, pottery, sewing, yoga, Ayurveda, they reflect this deeply curious, grounded, multifaceted person. And that richness that's not just separate from her acting, it almost certainly feeds into it. It gives her this incredible depth, this wellspring of understanding to draw from when she's creating these characters, even the really eccentric ones. It allows her to imbue them with this real humanity, complexity, maybe even a quiet strength. It really feels like living a full, engaged, creative life is part of what makes her performances so authentic and resonant. It all connects.
What an incredible journey, right? Following Parker Posey from that kid-loving performance in the South, through being crowned Queen of the Indies, then making that smart crossover to mainstream film and TV, and always delivering these memorable, quirky, deeply felt performances that just stick with you. That mix of humor, intelligence, and total unpredictability really makes her stand out. So for you listening, here's something to think about, a final thought on Parker Posey's amazing career. What does it really mean for an actor to be, truly well-informed in their craft? When someone can navigate the intimate indie world, the giant scale of blockbusters, the grind of TV, and even write a critically acclaimed memoir, and through it all, keep this singular, recognizable, authentic, artistic voice. Maybe your career isn't just about great acting. Maybe it's more like a masterclass in constant artistic rediscovery and adapting and thriving in an industry that's always changing.
Yeah, and that raises this really essential question, doesn't it? In Hollywood, which loves to label and pigeonhole talent, how does someone like Parker Posey not just resist that, but actually thrive by embracing new things, challenging expectations, bringing her whole self to every project? Her whole career suggests that maybe true artistic longevity, real impact doesn't come from fitting in. Maybe it comes from that fierce commitment to being authentic, versatile, and having the guts to stay the character in a world that often just wants stars.